everybody. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Model Health, the official podcast of Shemaine's Model Health, for those looking to optimize their long-term health and weight goals and understand how their body works. I am your host. I am Shemaine Linney. I'm a fitness and nutrition expert, certified iridologist and biohacker, and I'm very happy to have you back with me this week. I really do appreciate you guys that continuously listen to what I have to say and follow me. I know it takes time out of your day and I really do appreciate it. So this week's podcast episode, we are kind of following on from the trend started last week, or in the last episode, where we looked at what your nails can tell you about your health. And this week we are looking at what your tongue can tell you about your health. So before we go on, I must remind you that the information in these podcasts is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please do consult your health practitioner if you are having concerns or issues with your health. Okay, so in our last podcast episode, we looked at what our nails can tell us about our health. This week, we are looking at the tongue, and I really think many of you are going to enjoy this episode and be quite surprised at the clues your tongue can give you about what might be going on with your health. And looking at your tongue can be a very effective, easy way to look at what's going on in your body, especially in your gut. Right now, in this current environment, many of us are trying to be our own doctors and figure out what's going on with ourselves. So this week's episode and last week's episode, these are tools. These can be really help you in kind of giving you indications of where you might have an issue with your health and what you could do about it. So moving on, as we look at tongue signs, these can be anything from lumps, spots, wrinkles to the shape and size and color of your tongue, and even missing patches like we see on geographical tongues. These can all in some way give us an indication or idea of what's going on inside us. So learning to read our bodies like with our nails in the last episode, again, these can be very invaluable tools to help prevent things before they get too bad. So signs and symptoms from different parts of our body, they're known as biomarkers. And I speak a lot and teach a lot about biomarkers with my clients. These are important to monitor, especially when looking at progress or improved health. And they can be great measurements of progress, especially when other measurements may not be giving us indications that we're doing well, like on the scales. By using biomarkers, this gives us a whole or holistic approach to our body, understanding that the body is a whole and is one connected system. So let's look at these signs our tongue might be giving us. So first, when you look at your tongue first thing in the morning, and you might see a white or cream coating on your tongue and also indentations along the sides where your teeth were. I'm bringing these up first because you see these most prominently in the morning when you have been asleep, when your body has been stagnant for 7 to 8 hours. This is where you've got a higher likelihood to see coatings on your tongue and indentations. So when we look at the indentations, it's a case of your tongue became too big or swollen for your mouth during the night. So with this, these indentations can be connected to fluid balance or imbalances in the body and circulation. So fluid is not moving through the body like it should be. So there, we would go from there and look at the liver and the kidneys and the lymphatic system. We'd also look at any other accompanying symptoms like nausea, jaundice, fluid retention in the legs, edema, aches and pains, and even hydration and mitochondrial function are important here. We can see issues like this are more common with diabetics. where they have more issues with fluid retention and a lot more challenges or demands on the liver and the kidneys. So adding in minerals here, specifically sodium sulfate, can help a lot with that fluid retention and balance in the body. Making sure you are getting enough good quality sea salt into your diet, along with fluid and hydrating foods that hydrate you are often overlooked, because when we think of hydration, we're mostly thinking about water. But there are lots of foods that are very hydrating, some more so than water, and there are a lot of herbs that can help too. Parsley can be great for supporting hydration through the body, as well as yerba mate. So there is a lot out there. And when we go back to look at that white coating or the growth on your tongue when you wake up, for some people it can look furry or like the stems of mushrooms, depending on how severe it is. But it can mean a few things, but most of the time it is connected to gut function and pathogens or overgrowths in the gut. So all of our mucus systems are connected. So if you have an overgrowth in the gut, then there's a chance you're going to see it on your tongue. Many of us have seen with candida overgrowths, for example, that if you have a candida issue in the gut or a yeast overgrowth, you can see that overgrowth or that white coating on your tongue also. Not all the time. Some people will just have a yeast overgrowth in their gut and you won't see it on the tongue, but some people will also see that white coating on their tongue. When we're looking at the gut in this sense, if you also have a raw or irritated or stressed gut, you can see that in the mouth with ulcers, but you can also see it as blisters on the tongue. And we'll look at this more as we go down. It'll make more sense. But back to the coating, you can do mouth scraping or oil pulling for that coating, but understand that if you do those, that's only getting rid of the pathogen that's there. So that coating, it's not fixing the underlying problem. So the coating will grow back, like it will be there the next morning. So next we're looking at cracks or wrinkles in the tongue, also known as a fissured tongue. You might see several cracks across the tongue, but more common is that one big crack down the middle of the tongue. If you see these cracks or a mapped tongue or a geographical tongue, it can be reflective of what's going on in your body and a loss of integrity in the tissues. Again, especially in the gut. So your gut obviously plays a big part in your tongue. Your mouth basically is the entrance to your gut. Well, your nasal passages are too, but you can see what you put in your mouth has a big impact on your gut. So of course we're going to see that on the tongue. Okay, so as your tendons and ligaments and epithelial layers weaken, you can see these cracks appear on the tongue. Now, calcium can be great here to help strengthen the connective tissues, along with vitamin D3 and magnesium. These three combined are important for making strong cell membranes and connective tissues. Collagen also is amazing here, along with gelatin. Anyway, so a bit more about the geographical tongue that I've mentioned, which can be quite painful, let me tell you. It's generally directly connected to the gut and bacteria. Now, there is a genetic predisposition and there are other factors at play, but your gut does play a huge part in a geographical tongue. Gut function, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and candida can all be contributing factor to a geographical tongue. And I've seen in my experience and work with clients with geographical tongues, the worse the gut is, so the worse shape their gut is in, and the more issues they have in the gut, the more painful the tongue will be. So this means eating sour and tart foods, that stuff that is important for good gut health, that can hurt them a lot. and it can sting the tongue or burn the tongue. So geographical and fissured tongues can also be connected to B vitamin deficiencies too. So that's just something to think about when looking at your nutrition. Next is the quivering tongue, which sounds, I think, like something out of Harry Potter, but this generally connects to a magnesium deficiency. When the body is low in magnesium, we see more cramping, spasms, heart palpitations, and loss of function from the tissues. But we also see that twitching or shaking or quivering comes from the central nervous system not having enough mineral support. And our tongue has a direct connection to the central nervous system. It will quiver when we have a mineral or magnesium deficiency. Supplementing with magnesium, molecular hydrogen being my favorite source of elemental magnesium, will stop that quivering and support the rest of the body too. So that's something to consider. I'm also a huge fan of Epsom salt baths as a great form of getting magnesium into the body. But if you're one of my long-term followers or clients, you will already know that. So long, skinny tongues that go on forever usually are connected to silica deficiencies. You might also see brittle nails and hair here too. So you can use silica chews or tablets or other forms a few times a day, or focus on good nutrition, so foods rich in silica. If you see issues here with your bones and joints along with the skinny tongue, you might want to speak to an osteopath. There may be something going on there with deficiency on a deeper level, especially with calcium not being dispersed through the body or used in the body properly. Going from that skinny tongue, we're moving on to those big, beefy, swollen, raw red tongues, which you can sometimes see some spots or dots in the center too. This is usually connected to an iron deficiency, and this could be due to anemia, heavy menstruation, poor nutrition, but also an infection, which people forget about. When we have an infection, be it a bacterial or viral infection, iron is used as a fuel by pathogens. It's used as a fuel source for their replication. This is one of the ways colloidal silver can help with infections, because it cuts off the pathogen's ability to use iron. So the tongue in this really raw, red, swollen state can hurt when it gets really bad. So we would also look here at circulation and other minerals too for extra support. I mentioned small spots there. Now, if you see big red blotches on the tongue that look kind of like swollen taste buds, this can also be connected to iron and B vitamin deficiencies too. Okay, so there's a lot there. As always, if you do have concerns, do consult some sort of health practitioner to give you some feedback or guide you along the way. But there's a lot here that can give you an indication yourself. Most people will know if they have gut issues. I know that generally it's when I'm on vacation and I eat a lot of maybe not so good foods and there's more alcohol, I'll get blisters on my tongue, and I know that's reflective of what's going in my gut. So that is a healthy tool to have. I hope you found this episode super useful, and I'm going to attach a picture of the Chinese medicine tongue map over on my Facebook page. So that's Shemaine's Model Health for your reference. It might be fun to check it out and compare it to your tongue and where you're experiencing issues. So where you might have a white coating on your tongue might be where you have the overgrowth in your gut. So for example, if the coating is towards the back of your tongue, then we are looking more towards the intestines. So I'm sure some of you will find that helpful. As always, please do share with anyone you feel may benefit from this information. It also helps me reach the masses and spread the word of how people can take care of their health best themselves. I hope you guys have a great, safe week. I hope the sun comes out. And I would love to ask, if you feel I deserve it, you would leave me a 5-star review on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. This really does help my information, the word I'm trying to spread, reach more people and support more people. Just if you have time, I would really appreciate it. Okay, I'll chat to you all next week. Be good. Bye-bye.